To me, it was completely ironic that we were all banged up in Givon prison, Ramleh, Israel, because we told the truth.
And all we'd said is that we want to go to Bethlehem.
We want to visit our friends in Palestine.
That was all we said. We hadn't said anything more. We weren't, you know.
Yeah. So if we had lied, we'd be in Bethlehem. But why should you lie? This is the bit that since I've come home I've been getting so mad about. Why should you have to lie to go to Palestine?
We all had different prison numbers. So we originally were invited by the Al Rawad Centre in Palestine. That's a kind of a school that they do theatre and drama and arts, and they had set up a programme for us for that week. So we all had invitations and information about that, and I think the sort of idea was that there's a right to enter campaign, in that we have a right to visit these people. We'd been invited.
So it was suggested to me to take a hidden camera. Now, maybe I'm the kind of person who doesn't always think things through, but to me, my immediate instinct was to say, definitely I want to do that, because I've been to the West Bank a couple of times and I've seen things happen and wished I had, you know, some kind of video evidence of what I'd seen. Unbelievable, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching things. So for me, it was a brilliant opportunity, like if I could get something useful.
And I think the most nervous part of the whole experience was when we got off the aeroplane in Tel Aviv before we went up to passport control. That was sort of quite a moment, wasn't it? Because we knew that what we were going to sort of say, and we had agreed all to say that we were in a group and that we were just wanting to go to Bethlehem.
And with that, the big honchos you could see went out and came in, and then maybe, would you say, 12 to 20 police or army type in a totally different uniform
came in,
kind of rushed into the room and looking quite heavy.
They also put a guy on a table with a camera, so it looked like they were getting ready to do something. They were getting ready to film something, so you thought, well, what's happening?
So anyway, I think the only time we got to see actually the blue sky of Israel was in between leaving the airport and going to these vans, which were weird. On the outside they almost looked like coaches of
I
some
thought it
sort.
was a bus, and he said, welcome to your limo. They told us we were going to be taken to a hotel, and at one stage we kind of halted as though, hang on a minute, and a few of them just all stepped forward, and you just knew if you didn't go, you know,
there was no choice.
There was no choice.
They obviously targeted Mick and others that they kind of identified as ringleaders and roughed them up pretty badly and shackled them. They were in handcuffs.
But of course we didn't know where we were going, and we didn't know until we arrived and just saw all this barbed wire.
Oh, it's a jail. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been frightening, you know. I think some of the things that have happened have been outrageous, you know. The way we've been treated, you wouldn't treat an animal like that, would you? I just think, you know, one lie after another, you know, they tell you one thing, they don't do it, they tell you another, they tell you another, and they're laughing in your face, really, aren't they, you know, exactly.
All the women were in section 2, but obviously that was full, and there was just 5 women left over, which was myself and Dee and a Belgian lady and 2 French ladies. So we were taken over to section 5, which was where the men were, but they had taken all our money, all phones, anything, music, anything that you might have, that sunglasses, they wouldn't allow us to have sunglasses.
But they didn't class us as detainees, even though they were deporting us. We weren't actually deportees, so we were in a kind of a other class. So what he's saying is, you're not in Israel, but we're in Israeli soil, in an Israeli prison, on an Israeli bed, eating Israeli food, and being shouted at by Israeli guards, and we're told we're not in Israel.
3 times a day they had a count, which was like 6:30 in the morning. There was a lot of rattling of keys and doors slamming, and they would come and you had to stand up by your bed, and of course if you're on the top bunk, and usually it was so hot we had to put trousers on because a man was coming to count us.
Put on clothes.
I don't know where they thought we were going to go, and there was only 5, you know, it was, how hard is it to count to 5? We were all there. We were mainly locked up, apart from being allowed out for Well, they'd say you were allowed out for an hour, but after 20 minutes you had to go back in. So the issues really that we had was we didn't know when we were going to get food. So when we did have food, we felt like we had to almost sort of store a little bit and eat what we could, because we didn't know when the next food was coming.
Yeah, and the food was always cold, but you really felt there were games being played all the time, because, you know, they would say, if you want anything, ask. So you'd be shouting, hello, could we have some water, please? Could we have some water? And then they just would ignore you and ignore you. Or if they came by, not now, later.
Always later.
So then there was one particular occasion where we really needed water. We had nothing left. And the only way we could make noise was with spoons. Everything was plastic. You had plastic mugs and you had plastic plates. We had a spoon with a metal end. The women just banged and banged the door. We all shouted, water, water. And finally we got it. But a man came. One of the Israeli guards, a higher rank, came with the women and said, what's the problem? You know, as if there was no problem.
Why don't you
We
just
want
ask?
water, how, you know, most essential thing. So they would also punish you. They had little ways of punishing you if you didn't conform. So I remember on the night we decided we would stop eating and go on hunger strike in solidarity with the men, because the men were told, you will not be allowed to make a phone call. Because they were so angry with us for deciding to do that. You see, we made a little sign and put it in our cell behind the bars, saying no food, hunger strike, you know. They left the bright lights in the cell on all night. That was horrible.
That was a horrible night.
So in the morning at 6:30 when the guards came in, we were all quite pissed off, but I think Fiona was pissed off more than most. So the women came in first and they said, up,
Dress,
up,
and you had
get
to
dressed.
put trousers on. I said, I'm not putting my trousers on and I'm not getting up for anybody. I haven't slept because you've left the lights on, and just turned over and
ignored them. She just ignored them. Was fantastic. But you had to take a stand against them all the time, because they did everything to control you in every way they could, and they always lied to let you know how much power they had. One of the things these Israeli women guards were very keen on was for us to be cleaning our room, our cell all the time. If you don't clean, you get no coffee, no tea today. So, okay, we capitulated.
And we knew we didn't have any coffee, so we looked forward to our coffee, so we were like, fine, we were clean. So they did very little cleaning. We also saw some of the men, and also do the rubbish, get the.
I think there was also, it was a psychological thing again.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? It was definitely like keeping you down, showing how much control they had and how little we had. For me, what stands out from being inside are small acts of defiance, because you know, every time we felt something was taken away from us, like a privilege or a right, we would kind of counteract by doing something for ourselves and feeling a bit empowered.
Initially it talked about deportation, but then very quickly changed tact really, and said that we'd never actually been admitted to Israel, so therefore we were just in transit, even though this was now our 5th day, that we were being locked up and they'd taken all our money. They were still insisting that they didn't have to, because if we had been having to be deported, we would have had more legal rights. And so they didn't want to give us those rights, whereas if you're in transit, there's no real rights at all.
You are the manager of the prison. Yeah.
Right now.
You are in the prison, but you are not told why you have to prison. You are not given a reason. So you're the manager, and I'm not told
Why you come here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you are told, and you not know
What I say, the immigration people, the staff, immigration, come here promote.
And all along we wanted a deportation hearing, because that would mean we would be able to go in front of a judge and ask the questions that we wanted answers to, which is why is it that we can't go to Bethlehem?
The feeling we got from the lawyers was something that had been implicit before and used by the military to deport people. had never been explicit, had never come to a court hearing. So they'd got the court hearing, it was now out in the open. This is what the Israelis do to people who want to visit the West Bank. So now, what I understand from lawyers is they have an opportunity to challenge it in the court. So this is one small thing we've achieved, I think.